For 18 days, the most capable coding model in the world just vanished. Now, Claudevable 5 is suddenly back online, but the unrestricted access developers were promised a few weeks ago has been replaced by a heavily curated slice of the original system. The system was restored on June 30th, only after the Department of Commerce stepped in to lift export controls, establishing strict new operational boundaries. For anyone building an application, the calculus has changed. Assessing Python performance now takes a back seat to accounting for set-in platform risk. The era of open, frictionless frontier AI is over. Every tool you are allowed to build with is now subject to a permissioned, government-gated reality. OpenAI is facing the same constraints. Their new GPT 5.6 family is the first major release forced to wait in line behind this national security checkpoint. Right now, Fable's high-capability sibling, Mythos 5, and the entirety of GPT 5.6 are restricted to limited previews for roughly 20 government-vetted partners. The general public cannot access them. This timeline shows the bottleneck. Fable 5 launches, hits a sudden government blackout, and returns heavily constrained. Meanwhile, GPT 5.6 runs in parallel, hitting a vetting checkpoint wall. That 18-day gap represents a severe vulnerability. Relying on Fable 5 meant total loss of uptime. Model selection has shifted from a technical preference to a high-stakes strategic liability, with uptime now dictated by regulatory review. Integrating Fable 5 back into a production workflow requires evaluating its undeniable power against its new frictions. Stripe reportedly overhauled 50 million lines of code with it in a single day, proving it remains a top-tier coding tool. However, Anthropic's deal for its return includes heavy usage caps. Through July 7th, premium plans are limited to exactly 50% of normal weekly usage. It also carries more stringent security guardrails, proactively blocking targeted jailbreaks 93% of the time. Accessing this capped model also carries a price premium, $10 per million input tokens and $50 per million output tokens. Developers must decide if unparalleled coding power right now justifies absorbing these severe operational constraints and identity checks. Fable 5 is currently a high-friction powerhouse. It is excellent for immediate, narrow coding tasks, but it is a risky foundation for any permanent, automated pipeline. Waiting just on the other side of that government gate is OpenAI's GPT 5.6 family, posing a highly competitive threat. Tracking Fable 5 against GPT 5.6 Terra and flagship Sol on Terminal Bench 2.1, Sol leads at 88.8% versus Fable's 84%. The cost contrast is sharper. Sol hits higher benchmarks at half the API cost, $5 in, $30 out. These figures require skepticism. These are vendor-reported benchmarks from a narrow test that OpenAI chose for its preview. We are still waiting for independent verification. Furthermore, these aggressive numbers don't solve any current problems. GPT 5.6 remains indefinitely held up by the government review process. While GPT 5.6 wins on cost and performance specs today, its lack of general availability makes it a future promise rather than a deployable solution. Industry rumors suggest the public debate over Fable and GPT is already outdated. Behind closed doors, Anthropic reportedly finished training a massive successor to Mythos 5, while the public was distracted by the blackout. Removing models from public use does not slow internal development. Freeing up massive compute resources often allows labs to push training cycles even faster. The existence of an unreleased Mythos preview model confirms a clear pattern. Labs routinely hold their most capable systems behind the public line. This capability pyramid reveals the gap. Bottom tier, public models like Fable 5. Middle tier, gated models like Sol. The peak, unreleased successors on lab servers. High-end cyber capabilities trigger government gates, locking the most powerful tools at the top. The intense benchmark war between Fable 5 and GPT 5.6 is an illusion. The true AI frontier is completely hidden from public developers. Navigating this permissioned environment requires a new architectural response. Relying exclusively on a single flagship API provider to power your product creates a catastrophic single point of dependency. Sudden usage caps or regulatory blackouts will break a single model stack, alienating your users without warning. Avoiding this fate requires upfront investment. You must commit the engineering hours now to build multimodal fallbacks and investigate self-hosted options. Vendor lock-in has transformed from a pricing inconvenience into an existential threat to operational survival. Your routing logic depends on your needs. For enterprise production, portability is an engineering mandate. You must build multimodal fallbacks immediately. Indie developers should utilize Fable 5 now, preparing to pivot to GPT 5.6 Sol for a 50% cost reduction once it clears the gate. Portability is now the mandatory posture for any developer who intends to survive this unpredictable frontier. Stop designing products reliant on a theoretical best model that vanishes in an artificially constrained market. Success in the gated era belongs to those with agile systems, built to seamlessly swap to whichever model the gatekeepers allow you to use this week.